What does it take to have a connection with somebody? How is that going to impact your life? Well, let me tell you, I just got back from Scottsdale from the dinner series and had such a wonderful time. When I go into these events, I go into these networking events with intention. I really just want to open up and connect with people. And what does that mean? Let me share with you. So, the connection part of a relationship is really about being vulnerable. I have never been somebody that can just talk about the weather and be surface level. It is very hard for me to be in a situation or with people that can't answer certain questions and really dive in deeper. I'm not sure where that comes from. I know with the work that I do, having that connection with a client to be able to talk about the things and allow them to open up is really important in my career as a personal stylist. If you are new to this podcast, I am Tannya Bernadette. Before I get further into this conversation, I've been helping people align their style and their life for the past 15 years. And the work that I do is much more than just shopping. People don't find me when they just want a personal stylist. They find me because they get to a point in their life where they're not feeling good in what they're wearing and they're realizing that what they are wearing does not align with the person they want to be or how they want to feel. With that said, the reason why I went to the dinner series with Lori and Chris Harder is I am all about building community. And in the past 15 years with my business, I feel like I have done a really good job creating those in person and over Zoom because I work a lot with people in different states, but creating that one on one connection with people. But I know there's a bigger impact that can be made by creating a bigger community with the people that I serve and I work with. So the dinner series has really opened doors to creating that connection with me and other business owners, and even me being able to serve the clients of these other businesses that are doing different things. Everybody from branding professionals, weight loss coaches, business coaches. I work with people from all kinds of backgrounds. So the reason why I want to share about connection is what Dean Graziosi said at the dinner series is that the connection comes from vulnerability. You cannot connect with somebody if you do not open up. When you open up about yourself or your experience, you give space and almost like permission for somebody in front of you to also say, you know what? I can relate to that, or I see where you've been, and you are now more real to me than you were before I knew these other details about your life. I share about vulnerability and that connection because I feel like men don't always get a space to be able to be vulnerable. And in the work that I do, I probably work with 65 or so percent of men compared to women. And with the men, it's a totally different game because they usually don't come in knowing all the things. It usually comes with the time that we spend together that they begin to open up more. They start to get those aha moments and they start being able to connect the dots and why maybe style hasn't been important to them or where that comes from or what they thought about themselves. So men being in the space at the dinner series was a huge plus for me. What I've heard from my business coach is that men are not being served and taken care of in this space where women were all like, we gotta come together, we're boss babes, let's find our like business besties, where men are kind of isolated in the space. So being able to create a room where men could come in at the dinner series was incredible. And Lori Harder on stage at the end of the day, she really acknowledged the men in the room that raised their hand, that got to share what they were feeling and thinking and giving their opinions openly. One of the men, I wish I remembered his name, but he, at the end of different parts of the dinner series where we were learning something, we got to do a rapid fire of what we took away from that section of the dinner series. And one of the men opened up and he raised his hand and said, you know what? I actually thought that it was best, like I learned that it was better for me to not speak my truth or share too much. Like you have to kind of be surface level to be safe. And no, that is not how it goes anymore. So It was wonderful that Lori got to acknowledge all the men that got to be there. At the dinner series, I'd say it was like maybe 30% or so men. And it was so fun to see a lot of couples there together. It sounded like many of the women had started their businesses first, and then the men kind of later came in and tagged along. It was just an incredible opportunity to be able to be with people in a room where there was men and women doing their thing. So how the day had started is that first part, we were in a room, we had a speaker there. It was very intentional networking where we broke out in groups. And after that part, we had a little break. And then we had to get all dressed up in our cocktail attire to come back for an actual sit down 3 course dinner where we still got to connect with the people around us. And when I finished that first part, I had to go back to my hotel, get in an Uber. And the Uber drive was so short. I want to say it was maybe 12 minutes long. And when I got into the Uber, my Uber driver was very curious about what I was doing at the Andaz Hotel because he said that there are always events. He's like, "Were you here for an event?" And I shared with him what I had been doing the whole day and who I'd been learning from. And he was like, "Well, what do you do?" And I shared with him that I actually help people transition in their life to really step into feeling good in what they're wearing so that they can keep going at their goals and feeling really good as they show up for themselves. And he turned around and looked at me, and me saying that opened him up to be able to share what he was struggling with. It was instant. He looked at me and he said, "You know what? Funny you say that. Since I started working this morning and taking Uber calls. I put on this shirt because I like it, but I've been working out and it doesn't fit my chest, it doesn't fit my arms, it doesn't fit my wrist, and I'm wearing this watch." She's like, "I feel really uncomfortable and I don't feel good in what I'm wearing." But after I left the house, I had to just, stay at work. I wasn't going to go home and change, but he's like, "I can't stop fidgeting with my clothing because I know it doesn't work well." And he opened up even deeper. And then he started sharing about how, as a Latino man and being a shorter man in real estate, which is what he does during the day, he said that he doesn't always get the attention or the deals that other people come in with. So he said, with the people around him that are also in real estate, usually people want to go with the man that is taller, the man that is really polished and well dressed, the man that is not Latino, that is white. And he said that he knows that for himself, he feels so much more confident when he can walk into that room, into that meeting, and know that he feels really put together. And when someone looks at him and comparing him to someone else, they want to come to him. Another thing that he did share too is that because of his stature, and I want to say, I know for men, this is like a big deal. And yes, it does make a difference a lot, but it was interesting how he had the confidence within himself that he wanted to prove that he is worth so much more. And he said that he actually had gone through a phase where all he wanted to do was date women taller than him because he wanted to feel like he was put together, like he was being seen by these women, and that regardless of his height, that they could see past it because of who he was as a person. He just opened up, and me sharing what I did had him feel comfortable and being able to be vulnerable with me about what he was struggling with. And it was actually a really beautiful car ride because I started giving him some advice on things that he could look for, pieces that he could get tailored, certain brands that might fit him, other kind of giving him also client stories of other clients I'd worked with that really wanted to feel more polished and how it changed their life. And by the end, when we got to the hotel, we felt like we could still keep talking together. But of course, we had to end it. I had to go get dressed and dolled up for the rest of the event. But he gave me his card and his number, and he said that he wanted to work with me. And so we scheduled a Zoom call that is coming up in the next few weeks. But it just goes to show that when you are vulnerable, when you're able to connect with people, that is the game changer. That is a part of life that becomes so beautiful because you get to have a real experience with somebody outside of just the surface level thing that you can do with almost anybody. Although I'm not that type of person. So please, if you meet me in person, do not ask me about the weather. I am very turned off by surface level conversations. If you're a guy listening to this podcast, I just want to say that this is a space to be able to talk and be open about these things. I know that especially men don't have a place where they can go to. Like, you're not going to talk about your body issues or things that you're struggling with men. I also tend to work with clients too, where I work with the women and then I end up working with the man, and it's almost like a therapist session where I come in and I'm the third party. And when I'm telling the guy, like, oh, yeah, you know what, maybe we should get rid of this and add this. And the woman comes in and is like, oh my gosh, I've been telling you that for years. But there is something about having that other perspective of an individual coming in to see from the outside of your world to be able to share and guide with you what to do to step it up in your life, in your style, and your goals. So, for anybody that needed to hear this today, that needed permission to just open up to somebody, do it. Dean Graziosi also talked about just having better questions to ask. So when you have better questions, you get better answers. When you get better answers, you really get to connect with somebody outside of them answering something that is like yes or no. When you can ask a question where they have to kind of share a description of what they need or what they're feeling or what their opinion is, it really opens up more dialogue. So you have more questions to ask and ways to really get to know the person in front of you. And I think that if you are somebody that is a little more on like feeling comfortable on the surface level, don't ask like really deep questions. Start small. Practice with the person when you're going to go get coffee about, instead of just asking about their day, ask about what they're working on, what they're excited about. And they might light up because they probably get asked all the time, how are you? How are you? You know, that's one question that when people ask me, of course I'm going to say, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm not going to open up my whole life to you right now. But when you ask, what are you excited about? That keeps the conversation on a positive note where even if they were having a bad day, they can share with you something positive that they're looking forward to, and it will brighten their day. That one question can brighten someone's day. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, I would love if you could give me a 5-star review, share with me what was really helpful for you today. I know that everybody's asking for podcast reviews, but the thing is that us as people in the space that are sharing information, having these conversations with you, we want to build our community. It's so important to be able to reach more people because these are messages that can help someone take one step or find the awareness that they need to change their life. And when you write a podcast review, it helps this podcast be spread out more because people will be able to find it more easily and be able to read about what you are finding helpful from the podcast. And I love reading the podcast reviews too. So if you could take a pause from the podcast, write a review, I would really appreciate it. It would mean the world to me. And if you are new in this world, you are welcome here. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I have multiple ways that we can work together. And if you need somebody to talk to through your own style goals or something that you are struggling with, send me a message. You can go to the link in the show notes and you can schedule a 20-minute call and we could talk about the different options to help you build a style that feels good to you. We have everything from one-on-one to a monthly membership, the Curate Closet Collective, that is for people that are on a budget or just want to take their time to grow their style and figure out what works for them. So there are many different options for working together. You are not alone in this. Thank you, and I cannot wait to catch you next time. Continue building a life and style that truly reflect you. I hope to hear from you soon. Take care.